Hello, everybody, and welcome along to B38 episode 3, named The Weekend That Was. We are looking for some title suggestions, so if you've got a good idea for this one, let us know. This is our K-League 1, K-League 2 wrap-up podcast, hopefully coming to you at the beginning or so of every week. And this is the rare podcast every week where the three of us are on. I'm Andrew, Luke and Mike are alongside me. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Yeah, well, I'm doing great. So before we talk about the reasons why, well, some of us are doing great after the weekend of football, let's just a reminder that Below the 38 is the name of our YouTube channel, and that's also where you'll find us on Instagram and Twitter. And we hope to post loads and loads and loads of videos over the course of the season. So bear with us if there's a few technical glitches along the way. We were going to dive straight into the K-League 1 results, but we couldn't because something momentous happened on Saturday. And I hope this is not coming to you for the very first time. But after closing out the 2025 season with a 6-0 loss in Mokdong against Seoul E-Land, Ansan Greeners have started the 2026 season with an emphatic victory. I'm tempted, Mike, to write into The Guardian, do you know the knowledge section of The Guardian, say, has a team ever finished the season with a worse score than 6-0 only to start the new season with a better score than 4-1? So the floor is yours. Tell us what it was like to be an Ansan Greeners fan after your team destroyed Gimhae at the weekend.
Well, obviously a bit of shock, especially since we initially went behind in the game and it looked like business as usual. But in terms of this new Ansan setup, I know the manager came in for the last game last season and had a disaster, but given his history in management, he really has a point to prove, especially given he was treated like such an underdog as a player back in the day. I think he really has something he wants to say to the Korean football in general. And this was a complete performance. Bear in mind that Ansan only scored 4 goals, but also defensively they were excellent as well, with Yeon Jae-min and Tim Hartzell looked really, really solid at the back. And actually, probably one of the goalkeeping performances of the round actually came from Gimhae's Chae Pil-soo, who is actually, pulling off save after save to keep Ansan at bay. So on an absolute complete performance that we haven't really seen from Ansan's 6-7 years now. Jong Hyunho came out of kind of nowhere to grab a brace as well. So, and 2 of the newbies, the new foreign players scoring. So there's a lot for fans to get behind there. And of course, you put Ansan joint top of the league as we rounded out the weekend. Now, there was expectations, Gimhae coming from K3, are they going to hit the ground running or is it going to be a struggle with the transition? And we might dampen Ansan jubilation by saying it has been a bit of a wake-up call for Gimhae coming into the K2. But nevertheless, this might be the only time I ever say this on the podcast this season, but a fantastic weekend for Ansan.
Yeah, I'm not one to jump to hyperbole too often, but I think Ansan are the greatest team in K-League 2 history. So I'd be surprised if automatic promotion isn't wrapped up by late August. Luke, are you going to be at the promotion party in WA Stadium?
No, I'm going to save it for ACL. I reckon ACL in 3 years.
Nice. Send us a passport, Mike, from Shanghai, whenever that comes around.
Ansan did beat Shanghai Port in pre-season, so
right.
There we go.
Well, let's have a chat then about lesser-known teams then in K-League 1 and K-League 2. We can't spend all day talking about Ansan Greeners. Luke is an Incheon United fan. He's the only member of the squad here who has a team playing in K-League 1. So do you want to give us a rundown of the results from the opening round of the 2026 K-League 1 season, Luke?
Yeah, so Saturday started with Incheon losing 2-1 at home to Seoul in a sold-out Sungi Arena. There was a bit of controversy with VAR, as you would ordinarily expect. Ulsan won 3-1. They were 3-0 up against Gangwon before Gangwon scored a late consolation. Gimcheon drew 1-1 with Pohang. Champions Jeonbuk led twice before conceding a 97th minute penalty, and that gave Bucheon their first ever win at this level. 3-2 was the final score. Jeju drew 0-0 with Gwangju, and Jeju had 10 men for an hour after Italo was sent off, but Gwangju weren't able to pick up a win. And Daejeon drew 1-1 with Anyang. Daejeon missed a penalty in the last minute, which would have won it for them, but it was superbly saved by the Anyang keeper.
Yeah, we'll go into our previews for the upcoming weekend in another show, which you should see appearing in your YouTube feed in the very near future. But it just means, there's only one weekend of the season gone, obviously, but there's a very unusual feel to the top of K-League 1 because relegation threatened Ulsan are now joint top alongside Bucheon FC 1995. Who saw that coming? Good, didn't think so. And other relegation threatened FC Seoul are also at the at the top of the table. Otherwise, there's a bunch of teams on 1 point, as you'd expect. Now, as I said, there is going to be a preview show to K-League 1 Weekend 2 later on. But unfortunately, what you will find out in that show is that there are a couple of cancelled games or postponed games. So it's not going to be the most exciting season. At the opposite end of the table, everybody's delighted to see John Buck Hyundai Motors in the relegation zone. And with one team going down automatically, which is Kimcheon Sangmu. The only other team that could possibly join them, I think, is the team that would finish 12th if it's not Kimcheon. So the relegation race is not as tense as it might have been in previous years because Kimcheon are definitely gone. Thanks for that, Luke. We'll catch up with you on how the weekend, or how you're feeling about the upcoming weekend on the next episode. Mike, switching to K-League 2, a couple of big results at the weekend. One very, very famous result in Suwon. Otherwise, a couple of nondescript games like down in Gimhae. What were the more significant results at the weekend in K-League 2?
Well, the table is headed by 3 teams joint top with 4-1 wins, being Ansan, Jeonnam and Suwon FC. Suwon FC look like they have a bit of a worldly player in Mateus Rizzo, who just absolutely dominated their front line. So that looks like the most likely Suwon team to go up, but there was a great result for the other team in Suwon, the Bluewings, as they took on possible promotion rivals Seoul E-Land and scraped a 2-1 win there. But Chungnam Asan are actually ahead of Suwon Bluewings because they managed to pull off a 3-2 win themselves against Paju Frontier, who did fairly well, I would say, as one of the new boys, but a team that everyone's got a lot of hopes on a lot of plaudits for were Yongin, and they started with a 2-2 draw with Cheonan City, which is not the best, and they basically make up the mid-table with Busan and Songnam as well, who also drew. Of interest, the actual team, Gimpo haven't played yet, but the actual team facing relegation is Hwasong, who only lost 1-0 to Daegu, and they missed a penalty themselves. But because it goes on goals scored, they're not bottom of the league, despite 3 teams having a -3 goal difference. So it's a few surprises in that opening weekend, but of course there's plenty more to unfold in what is basically a far more exciting league in the top division, because there's stuff going on at the top and the bottom this year.
I just want to bring Luke into this because I know he hates this. I've seen you writing about this on Twitter before. The way it works in Korean football is that you're better off losing 6-1 than 1-0. That is unfortunately how it goes. And I find it rather amusing, again, that the Bluewings are behind Suwon FC in the table. We've seen this often. I saw this very famously in 2023. Goal scored is where it all comes down to, and if you're not going to score a goal, there's no point losing 1-0. You might as well just lose 5-1. Luke, you've had a rant about this, I think, down the years on Twitter.
I just don't think it makes sense, because as far as the league standings go, you can concede a last minute goal and lose a game 1-0, and it's very, very unlucky, or you can concede 10 goals, manage to scrape some form of consolation because the opposition feels sorry for you, and you're ahead of the team who lost 1-0 in a tight game. I don't understand. I know the league wants to make attacking football, but
yeah,
that's not working anyway. We're not seeing attacking football. We're just seeing sideways and backwards passes. But I do think that goal difference would be much fairer than goals scored. But what do I know?
Yeah, there's no argument there.
Although Ansam wouldn't have a K-League 2 title without that goal scored rule, so I think Incheon are just a little bitter to share the same amount of titles with Ansan.
Yeah, but do you have a cup?
Sure.
You guys were at a game. I was at a game too, but my game fell in K-League 2. I don't think anybody really wants to hear about K-League 2 game, but I'll bring it up a little bit later on. But first, you guys were at the big one in K-League 1 over the weekend. And maybe there were bigger shocks elsewhere, but certainly before the season started, before the weekend started, everybody had their eye on Incheon United versus FC Seoul. I'll begin with you, Luke, because you are an Incheon fan. You were at the game. It ended 2-1 to Seoul. If you had to pick like just one major talking point in the game that you'd like to share with the audience, what would you like to go for?
Of the two standout ones, I would say the first half penalty that wasn't given. Kim Yong-sun ran into the box. He was pushed from behind, possibly as he was about to shoot, but he was pushed from behind, forearm in the back, and fell forward. The linesman was a few meters away, didn't give anything. The referee put his hand to his ear and waited and was never called over to the monitor on the pitch side. Having seen it from a few different angles, the defender tracking back doesn't make any contact with the ball. He doesn't make an attempt to go for the ball. He literally just shoves the Incheon player in the back and the Incheon player falls over. If it was another player in K-League who's known for winning penalties, who plays for John Buck sometimes, it would have definitely been a penalty. But unfortunately, this year Incheon are kind of no longer the darlings of the league, and we're not going to get penalties for that, it seems.
Yeah, fair enough. It was definitely a controversial one. There's plenty of controversy in that game. Mike, you might as well jump in too. As I was going to call you the neutral, but it's hard to know. There's something fishy going on in the water in Ansan. A lot of people just seem to defect to Incheon. I don't know if that's something you're considering doing yourself. It has been known to happen in the past, but you were in the home end on Saturday for this game. So, do you want to ignore that particular slight and just go straight to a talking point, or do you want to address that one as well?
I don't know of any genuine football fans who defect clubs. Never met one. If I was in the Incheon home end, out of respect for our mutual host, co-host here. So, but yeah, the first 25 minutes looked like it was going to be a bit of a massacre of Incheon, but then the game, Incheon really switched into a lot of control of the game. But it was a feisty one. This looked like it was a derby game. There was a lot of nasty tackles. For me, the talking point was Magosa, very savvy, really annoyed the Seoul keeper who protested a lot about preventing counter-attacks by crowding in. And then, of course, there's the Magosa goal, which I thought was the goalkeeper got frustrated, made a point of booting the ball straight at Magosa, and then was shocked at when it actually bounced in. But I've shared that clip with a lot of people now, and why it did not stand as a goal, I'm still unsure. So certainly, Incheon should feel very hard done to come away from this game without a point.
What about... Yeah, sorry, go on, Luke.
I was going to say, at the time, Magosa was blocking the keeper from distributing the ball. But by the time the keeper kicked it, Magosa had walked back and he was outside the box. He was well outside of the box. And the keeper blasted it at him. It's not like he was in that close proximity. He didn't have his head up or like looking at where the ball was going. He had his back turned to the keeper and the keeper hit him with a kick. I don't know. Maybe I know there's a rule where you're not allowed to block the goalkeeper, but by the time the keeper released the ball, there were other players closer to the keeper than Magosa. Magosa wasn't deliberately, specifically blocking the goalkeeper. He was just near the goalkeeper at that point. I don't know. I'm sure people will argue for and against it, but I think it should have been a goal. Naturally, I do.
Neutrally, I think it should be a goal. So,
yeah.
I have seen tweets from a Seoul fan. I've seen a tweet from a Seoul fan saying he thought it should have been a goal as well, which is easy. When you've won 2-1, it doesn't really matter.
As a sort of a fan-ish podcast, we're obviously K-League fans who like going to watch matches. I'm just interested in your thoughts. Firstly, Mike, just from the neutral point of view of going to an Incheon United home game. Just generally speaking, what did you make of the atmosphere for the Gyeongwon derby?
In Incheon, I've one of the better home crowds in the league. It's a good stadium, easy to pick up atmosphere. You're closer to the pitch than a majority of stadiums wherever you sit. So it's definitely one that I would put on the roadmap of anyone visiting to watch K-League. Certainly more so than quite a few other K1 teams, to be honest. So there you go.
Luke, just from your own point of view, being back at Sunway Arena for a K-League 1 game, you obviously enjoyed your spell in K-League 2 last season. Fortunately, it ended in just a single season. But with the possible exception of the Bluewings showing up twice last season, did anything come close to the pre-match atmosphere when FC Seoul showed up?
I think aside from Bluewings, I think the average away attendance was probably 100, maybe 150. I mean, even the likes of Bucheon and Eland, it's an easy subway ride to get to Incheon from those grounds, and they didn't fill a single block. It was 150 fans at best. It was poor. And so that's what you notice, like coming up into K-League 1 after being in K-League 2. The crowds will be bigger, obviously, from a home point of view, but the away fans will actually come in numbers as well. I was looking at the Pohang Gimcheon attendance. Like, Pohang took a lot of fans to Gimcheon. I know it's a relatively close game, close match, but it still shows that there is such a gulf between attendances in K-League 1 and K-League 2 for the most part. And it makes a huge difference to the atmosphere, to the game, and to kind of how you perceive the importance of the game.
Yep, cool. I enjoyed it. I watched it on TV before I went out to my game. I won't spend too long talking my game if we're heading towards the 20-minute mark, but I would just say look out for a young player who made his league debut for the Bluewings, Kim Sung-ju. You might have seen him in one of the videos getting splashed in the face by manager Lee Jung-hyo on his debut as Suwon Bluewings manager. But this guy is 19 years old, and he was outstanding as an attacking midfielder, playing just behind Stanislav Ilichenko. A couple of really nice touches. And unlike a lot of the 18, 19, 20-year-olds you see in K-League, he wasn't whipped off after 20 minutes. He played the best part of 70 minutes. Really, really, really good prospect. He's very small. He's very diminutive. He's quick on the turn. He reminds me of the formerly mentioned player at Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors, actually, in terms of his diminutive stature and his quality on the ball. But I thought it was really promising that he was given the start on the opening game of the season by Lee Jung-hyo, and I thought he did really well. And just to, I don't know if I need to mention this, but he turned 3 a month before I came to Korea for the first time, and now I'm watching him play a game of K-League football. It is a bit depressing, but there you go. Born in August 2008. Oh, well, 2006, and I came in 2009. So yes, he was born. He turned 3 just after I arrived. Anyway, crazy stuff. Look, before we go, we don't have a lot of time. There were some great matches in K-League 1 and K-League 2 over the weekend. You have your pick. I will go last, so I'll let you guys go first. Of all the games that took place in the top 2 divisions at the weekend, if you had to pick one that you wish you were at, where would you say you'd like to have gone? I'll begin with you, Luke, because your team was defeated in the end of the weekend, and maybe you could have been somewhere else.
I think for me, like Jeonbuk Bucheon was a great spectacle. Goals, like last minute goals particularly. You've got teams coming up from K2 and battling the K1 champions. Like as a game, as a spectacle, it's brilliant. There was a big crowd. Everybody was loud. I would have liked to have been there, even as a neutral. Definitely.
Mike.
Well, he's stolen my pick there, because having watched Bucheon through the playoff promotion push, it's a difficult one. In fact, I'm quite excited to see Bucheon, and I'm going to pop along the following weekend to see if they can pull it off against the second place team from last season as well. But cause I don't want to pick Ansan, because obviously I couldn't make the game down in Gimhae, but it just seems too obvious to choose that. But if not, then I'll go with Asan and that Asan game and Paju in the K2, because that was pretty exciting, and I had some fans there, which was a surprise too.
Yeah, Asan. the last couple of years of, especially at the beginning of the season, fans have showed up. I think they were buoyed by that playoff run in 2023. I was hoping you go for John Buchan because then we could have just made it a hat trick. I think there's no doubt that would have been the game to have gone to. And I found this out yesterday that Buchan have never actually lost to John Buck. They're 3 for 3 against him, with 2 cup successes and now 1 their first ever league meeting. And like Luke was saying as well, there's we just seem to be developing this thing in K-League now where an unfancy team from K-League 2 that's never played in K-League 1 before is showing up to the home of the defending champions and winning.
I must point out that
could be next time.
Ansan have never lost in normal time to John Buck either.
Yeah. They lost in penalties, did they? Or extra time?
Extra time, but that doesn't count.
Yeah, doesn't count. But anyway, because you guys are going up, we've already determined. So who's going to win K-League 1 this season, which means that Ansan will be there in the opening round of the season next year to claim an unlikely 4-3 win. Who are you going for? Nobody?
Okay. I was waiting for Mike. I still think John Buck will win it. But I think it'd be the only way to break the hoodoo would be if Gimcheon win the league. Yeah. And I think it'd be quite entertaining if Gimcheon won the league, got relegated, and then Ansan got promoted and we couldn't have the K1 versus K2 game.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I would like to see Gimcheon win just to make a point about some of the wider issues that are not being addressed on the administrative management of Korean football.
We can get into that on another podcast. We've hit 22 minutes here. We should probably have a season prediction podcast at some point. It's amazing we haven't got that far yet. We don't look like those people who are going in 6 or 7 weeks in when it's already pretty clear that John Buck have won it, that they're going to go on and win it. But look, thanks very much for joining us. Stay tuned to our YouTube channel for the rest of this week. You will see K-League 1 and K-League 2 previews for the upcoming weekend. That's weekend 2 of the 2026 season. This is Below the 38 with me, Andrew, Luke, and Mike. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.